Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me again and welcome to a brand new dragon video. Let's just get straight into it. Let's start off here at the Audemars Piguet boutique in New York. This is the old store because they have a new boutique that's opened. So yeah, let's just get started. I visited this boutique in September, I think this was like last year, as a new client with my family to establish a relationship. The essay was polite and sincere. The pieces were beautiful. I indicated interest in some of the pieces. Subsequent follow-ups were cordial, but ultimately fruitless and uninformative and delayed. Each conversation resulted in it's going to be very tough, with the implications of entitlement by inquiring about a royal oak as a first piece, which is over 50% of AP's total offerings, with no serious discussion as to timing or allocation. The relationship I've entered into is completely dictated by the brand. AP doesn't have the pieces to meet demand. It's uncertain if the situation may change. The essay is just an essay with no knowledge. He's completely powerless to sell me any of the pieces I want. He's unable to help. His job is to advocate for me amongst the thousands of other prospective clients who want the same pieces. I was being asked to wait for an unspecified time, potentially infinite duration. Let's fast forward now. The person's saying fast forward. I had an opportunity to speak to the manager, okay, and the manager informed me that she literally has no control or insight into inventory of the flagship store in North America. The pieces just come and she allocates them. On top of this, she also says she has no idea what's coming out of Le Brassus. Le Brassus is the headquarters of Audemars Piguet in Switzerland. On top of this, new clients cannot be allocated a royal oak in blue or green, meaning you are limited to gray, and the ones in precious metal is unlikely. Those pieces are reserved for top tier clients. If you're a new client, a royal oak is tied to purchase of a combination of offshores codes. These are other watches that are not as desirable. I was repeatedly steered towards these other lines by multiple essays at other boutiques. This information was shared after spending 4.5 years inquiring at different points of sale about getting blue royal oak. Even more troubling is that the brand collects and retains all kinds of information like your job, your occupation, your hobbies, your home address. What could the brand possibly require all this info for? The harsh reality is new clients have little to no chance of buying 90% of the AP collection at the time due to limited capacity, high demand, and tiered allocation favoring top-tier clients and big spenders. In the meantime, I'm dissuaded from coming back, and I think I'll go to the secondary market. This arrangement just isn't unreasonable. If you don't have any product to sell, nothing to allocate to clients, there's no point having a further discussion. If you're new to the brand, my recommendation is to bypass the store and to go to the gray market. Yeah, this is unfortunate, but this is the reality. I think for most people who are familiar with Audemars Piguet are aware that this is the situation. Again, this is very unfortunate. I have to say, normally in dragon videos, like, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people, but I feel for this person. I would love to get an Audemars Piguet watch. And I was looking over like my wish list of like my top tier grail pieces. These are like not necessarily for this year. These are just things which I want to buy eventually. So like Pave Cartier Bangle, like a Lamborghini, you know, an Audemars Piguet watch, whatever. And I feel like this is something which I would love to buy. And if I just stay focused and don't stay distracted, I could probably buy one, like a woman's watch. So not like the top tier men's watches that all the lads are fighting over. I think the women's watches will probably be an easier sell. But yeah, this is, again, you know, it's very unfortunate. It's just very unfortunate, but it's just the reality. I mean, the person said it themselves. They have tiered allocation. There's not enough watches to meet demand. How many watches do they make a year? 50,000, 60,000 max, maybe? They don't make more than that. It's not that many. If you think about that, 50,000, 60,000 new watches a year, it's just not that much. Is it even that? I might have to check, but I don't even think there's no way it's more than 60,000 watches that they make a year. So they just don't have the watches to meet the demand, and it is what it is. I would love to get an Audemars Piguet watch. I just need to stay focused. The prices are crazy. I've already been dragged so hard at Big H, honey. So if they drag me, boo-boo, I'll be like, drag me. Okay, I've already been dragged by the ponytail, so I don't really care. What do you guys think about that one? The next one is the AP House in London, in the UK. I had an appointment with my husband and I dealt with essay number one. She was really rude at the outset. She asked us if we were together and then she was really cold and condescending. We've done research on the products we wanted and we knew what we wanted to buy. She refused to help me put on any watches. I had to take them on and off myself. This is by far the worst and laziest luxury shopping experience I've ever had, and it soured my AP experience. I hope this isn't the disgusting standard by which they treat all clients or female buyers. Yeah, this is again very unfortunate. The AP house is like a different concept to the store. So the way I've understood it, it's meant to be, it's kind of like an immersive experience. So like you can go there, try on bits and bobs, but you can also go there if you're a top tier client, you can go there and chill. You can take friends and things like that. It's meant to be like an immersive experience. They sell watches there, but it's meant to kind of feel like a members only club kind of thing for the watch owners versus the actual AP boutique where they just like sell the pieces or have you try them on. Yeah, again, I feel like these brands probably want to cater to female customers, but to a point. If they think that you're being difficult, they think that you don't want to play the game, they could probably also just tell you, to piss off. The next one is the AP boutique in Paris. This boutique is really close to Faubourg Saint Honoré, Big H. It's also really close to the Madeleine Church as well. It's always surprising when you're buying a watch, regardless of its price, to be told to come back in an hour to try it on, even though the SA was available to help. I asked to see the watch and it was taken from the display case, but it was held so tightly in the SA's hand, who must have been afraid I was going to run away with it and steal it. It was impossible for me to ask to try it on. With all due respect, you're not doing any justice to the quality of the brand you respect. Yeah, this is unfortunate. So it's like one of those things where it's like the SA is holding the watch, doesn't want to give the watch to the client. Like, hey, you can look at the watch here in my hand. Well, I want to try it on my wrist and see how it sits on my wrist. That would annoy me as well. The next one is the Chanel boutique in Ginza, Tokyo in Japan. As others have said about this store, don't bother yourself if you haven't really decided to buy anything here. I suppose anyone that comes in browsing might be considered to be a bad customer. One really rude SA serviced us and his body language basically said, don't waste my time. And I would say that this was a really disappointing experience. Yeah, again, this is one of those things where people just do it to themselves. So I'm not going to say too much. Like, you do it to yourself. I'm not going into the Ginza flagship Chanel boutique if I'm not buying anything. At minimum, like, if I'm looking around, I'll just be like, hey, I just want to look. But I think you should highlight to the people. Don't give people the idea and the hope that you're buying something. The next one is Chanel Omotesando in Tokyo in Japan. I would like to share some constructive feedback about my visit. I was traveling from the US. I was genuinely excited to visit the Chanel boutique and buy something from my cousin. My experience was really disappointing. I was informed I needed an appointment in order to enter the boutique. While I understand the importance of managing customer flow, I was really surprised I needed to have an appointment to look around. Without being able to see the product, it's difficult to decide what to buy. The policy felt discouraging for clients who may be visiting internationally and have limited time. Because of this, I was unable to make the purchase I had planned. It left me and my cousin really upset. I truly believe Chanel is known for exceptional service. Maybe I'll come back in the future. Yeah, this is unfortunate because I don't think it's possible to possibly know that every place, it's not possible for you as an international customer, especially if there's a language barrier. Like, I wouldn't know because I don't speak Japanese. I can't read Japanese. I speak Swahili, French, and English. Like, those are the languages that I'm familiar with, and those are the languages critically that I can read. So if there's a sign in French saying you need to have an appointment to enter the store, I can read it and be like, okay, cool, and not have that embarrassing experience. So yeah, this is unfortunate. I think that they have that appointment only system because they don't want people just looking around taking pictures for TikTok and Instagram. I do think social media has made things really hard. Same location. What a masterpiece in how not to treat a client. Chanel Harajuku managed to turn what would have been a luxury shopping experience into something that felt like a public humiliation. Besides the store being empty, I was made to wait outside like some uninvited guest, maybe because I wasn't dressed enough logos. And I didn't pass the fashion purity test. You think spending money on a bag here would earn you some respect. Inside, the staff delivered a flawless performance of cold indifference. No greetings, cold shoulder, no water offer, no offer to take a seat, no chance to use the toilet, not even a shred of common courtesy. They wouldn't even let me take a photo of the bag I paid for. Apparently, the sacred walls of Chanel must be protected from the likes of their own clients. Let's be clear, the staff here are a disgrace to the standard of hospitality that Japan is known for. You know, it's really funny. Anytime I have these like videos where I feature Japan dragging stories, I always check in with one of my really good friends who's Japanese. She lives in Kyoto. And she always tells me that, yes, Japan is known for hospitality, but it's not like every single store is like that. And she said that she thinks like the high-end like luxury shops in Japan are not like that. She was like, the high-end luxury shops in Japan, they're like, baby, let me stop you right there. Like, how much money are you spending? Same store. I had the pleasure of visiting this Chanel store and it was really unforgettable. I made a point to stop by to finalize a purchase. I assumed I'd get the same hospitality level that I got at Dior. The staff here seemed really deeply burdened. They seemed deeply burdened by my presence. Each request to view an item was met with visible reluctance and the energy was minimal. I wasn't offered any alternatives. When I finally chose a bag, both options presented had defects. Upon politely asking to see another, I was met with silent refusal. No explanation, just a firm no, with a smile that somehow made the experience feel colder. No water was offered, no warmth, no sense that perhaps the client mattered. Perhaps this level of service is an artistic choice. Minimalist like the boutique itself, or maybe it's a cultural nuance I failed to appreciate. This is one of the very few dragging reviews where people mention cultural nuances. Yeah, there are cultural nuances. Like my friend said, it's not like every place in Japan is known for the Japanese hospitality that the nation is known for. It's not like every single place. Because she was like, there's some places that are super nice, and like all places, there's a diversity of treatment. Another thing I think it's really important to know, Japan has a lot of tourists, and it is affecting the locals, the people of the country in a way that's really intense. My friend has chatted about this before. She said that a lot of tourists who come to, a lot of tourists, and especially English-speaking tourists, can be incredibly rude and super disrespectful. She lives in Kyoto, and Kyoto is the historic city of the emperor. So all Japanese emperors were buried in Kyoto, I think up until the early 20th century, like up until the 1910s. The concubines of the emperor lived in Kyoto. So it's a city that has a deep, rich history and culture. And critically, the geisha, most of the geisha live in Kyoto. So she said that sometimes people can just be super rude. People can run up and try and take pictures of geisha without asking their permission, without even saying hello. So I think that some of the cold shoulder that some people may be experiencing in the Japanese boutiques might be cultural nuances. And maybe they thought that the client was rude. I mean, I don't think that the client here was rude per se, but I do think if you're going to someone else's culture, make a little bit of an attempt to be respectful. But yes, the client did buy something. I do think that warrants a drink. I think this is one of my favorite dragging stories. Hear them saying, "Can you show me another bag?" "No, I can't, girl." No. It's a bit harsh. So whenever I chat to my friend, she's explained that there are some cultural nuances and stuff, and I totally understand that, because there are tourists who can be incredibly rude. There are a lot of tourists who come here. Most are super, super nice and friendly, but there are a lot who are incredibly rude and disrespectful. And if you're a tourist and you're rude and disrespectful, you're going to get that same energy back as well. So I don't know about this one. I have to say, a client said, "Can you show me another one?" Homegirl said, "Baby, no, we're not going to show you another bag. You're going to buy it or not. Let me know what you think about this one. This is the final one." So that's it for today's dragging stories. Look, respect people's cultures and beliefs, but also it's a shop. It's not meant to make you feel good about yourself. It's not meant to be an ego boost. Again, whenever I check in with my friend, she's like, the idea that every single Japanese shop is like incredible with hospitality is a bit of a stereotype. Yes, Japan is very famous for its hospitality, but not every single place is like that. And maybe these clients aren't spending that much, because I refuse to believe that if you're a top spender, that they're not going to offer you water. They're not going to be running sort of after you. Maybe they felt like the client wasn't going to buy anything and they were like, "Look, we're tired. You know what I mean? Tell me what you think about all of this. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Sign up for the email newsletter. It goes out once every Monday. Sign up for the merchandise bundles coming super soon, I promise. It's the best way to support the channel. If you love the dragging videos, sign up for the merchandise bundle. There'll be a special dragging episode only for the people who get the merchandise bundle. So make sure you sign up for it and you get it when it comes out very soon right now. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. I'll see you in my next video. I'm out.